building was overstated or understated at $10 million, or that other alternatives should have been looked at. Mayoral candidates, how did you vote on each of the bond votes and why? And you get an extra 30 seconds to deal with that. Mr. Uri, 2 minutes.
I happened to be living in Brazil at the time that everything was going on in Public Works, but I checked in on the internet with the local newspaper and actually exchanged emails with those who were serving on the council at the time and the mayor. I believe that the original cost of the Public Works building was overstated. I think there's way too much to spend for that kind of a building. I support the Public Works Committee, building committee that's working now, and their plan to pay as we go. And so I think that other things should have been looked at, and I think they have been looked at, but I'm pleased with that.
Thank you. Mr. Savage waits for a minute.
When I first heard about the resolution to bond for $10 million, we were just concerned that the city was going to go into that much debt. And I have to admit at the time that I didn't know whether the building was overpriced or not. But in subsequent discussions, I came to the realization by talking to individuals, both Brent Chuck, who currently heads the Public Works Committee, and another individual, Lynn Millard, who indicated, both of them have indicated that they built similar buildings, similar situations with offices, and neither of them could agree that the cost was correct. They both said it was much less cost than what was there. So I think it was, in the end, it was overstated. I'm glad we had the opportunity. State law does give residents an avenue for being able to vote on it, and we pursued and obtained that opportunity.
Many of you were here the night of the public hearing that we had and heard me say that I initially was in support of that. I spoke early in the meeting. I thought the features of the building not only met the Public Works facility needs, but also made it a nice place to blend with the neighborhood well, and that was adding up on the cost, but I was initially okay with that. As I heard the discussion go along, I realized that there was not support for that, and so I walked out of the meeting that night realizing that the middle of the road approach, which is right now the one that's being made, is the one to take, and I've supported that since that time, and so I feel that it's good to listen to people even when I might be off base, and I felt I did that night, and that's the position I have right now.
Mr. Swanson, for a minute. As soon as we reset the timer. There you go.
This has been quite a contentious issue, and when the issue first started raising its head, the first thing that I did was go to the Public Works Committee meetings. Rather than depending on someone telling me what was going on and what was being proposed and what costs were and those kinds of things, I actually attended the meetings, which generally I was the only resident that was there. There might be one other on occasion. And I attended city council meetings to find out what was going on. In the end, when the large meeting was held here in this room, I was in favor of option C, which was a compromise down from what I thought was the original overpriced building that was being built, but I felt would meet the needs of the city. I'm on the committee now for the Public Works, and I think we're in a good place, and we're headed in a good direction, and we'll see what the bid will bring back in.
Mr. Digler for a minute and a half. Or Taylor, I'm sorry. I'm looking one way and...
You're not a North Ogden voter, are you?
Not unless this is Chicago.
Then you get 2 votes though.
Okay. The best way for me to describe it is to talk about the 5 votes that the City Council took in 2011 in regards to the Public Works. There were 5. The first one was in February of 2011. March of 2011 during the budget retreat. The City Council voted on whether or not to proceed with the Public Works project. I voted no at that time. I said the reasons were lack of public involvement and lack of considerations of other options. That was on March 25th, 2011. Later, I was asked to be a member of the Public Works Committee, and I said I would if I'd be allowed to submit other options and proposals for more citizen involvement. That was allowed, and I put a lot of proposals forth in the Public Works Committee that got a lot more information into the hands of our residents. The next vote was taken on July 12th to purchase property for the Public Works facility. I voted no on that as well. That night we also voted on bonding parameters, which I did support because that set in motion the public hearings where we could hear from our residents. I noted during that meeting, it's also in the minutes, that that didn't mean I would support the final bond. It would depend on the cost. And then on August 23rd, I proposed a lower cost option. When that failed to have any support on the council, I voted no on the bond, the actual decision to issue bonds, and then on the fifth and final vote to reset the parameters. So, for the 5 votes, I voted no on.
Mr. Bigler, it is your turn.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was against the $10 million bond parameter from the beginning. On this one, I didn't need to change. I had done my homework and knew from the very beginning it was way too expensive for our size city and what our needs are. And we need to do what we need to do for our needs. But I knew it was way too much money. I'm the only one on the previous council that voted against that $10 million bond parameter. That got the 30-day contestability period going for you residents to say, no, that's too much money. And so we did a petition. Residents were saying, what can we do, what can we do? So I got residents together and we started a petition and we did that. And then we had to do a second petition and we did that. And because of all of that, now we're dealing with about a $3 million project that we're going to be able to pay cash for. That includes the purchase of property. If I hadn't done what I did, we would be in debt. The July 12th meeting, the bond expert said that the current rate was 4.25, and they figured out at $9.5 million, it would have been $16,025,000 to pay for this facility. Now we're doing it for about $3 million. I have never petitioned anything in my life, but that one, and we talk about compromise sometimes on some things and a lot of things we do, but as a father, I tell my children, you know, get along and compromise on some things, but there's some things principally based that you should never compromise on. And this one was so expensive of a project, I never wavered, and I joined you, and I took a lot of hits for that from some of the administration and elsewhere. But I was happy to stand with you on.